look up at the night sky. Those points of light you see, millions of them, are suns like ours. Statistics say that some had planets. Some of those planets had life, but only one of them in the last 450,000 years has received visitors. We call that planet Earth, and we are what was left behind. Modern science desperately wants you to believe a very simple story. We evolved slowly, gradually, predictably. An elegant process of millions of years where natural selection did the heavy lifting, reptiles to mammals, mammals to primates, primates to men. But there's a problem with that story. There's a glitch in the machine, a flaw in the code that academia can't explain. The evolutionary leap that created us does not follow the pattern. Precisely 350 years ago, human anatomy underwent an impossible transformation. It was not gradual. It did not take millions of years. It was rapid. It was surgical. Overnight, our brains tripled in size. Our hands developed unique precision. The ability to speak, to create art, to question the universe appeared out of nowhere. Someone, or something, took the genome of an intelligent primate and made changes that nature would never have made on its own. Paleontologists call this the Great Leap Forward, as if it were magic, as if evolution had suddenly learned to run. But consider this: what science calls coincidence, history calls documentation. And history has left records, not myths, but reports, baked clay tablets, sealing cylinders, Sumerian, Babylonian, and Akkadian texts that have been preserved with maniacal obsession. They gave us names, dates, lineages. They weren't documenting ethereal gods. They were documenting engineers, project managers, administrators of an operation that began when our ancestors didn't yet know they were prisoners on their own planet. This is the story they don't want you to take seriously, the story of how we were built. The Sumerians called them the Anunnaki, those who descended from heaven to earth. It wasn't a poetic term. It was a technical description of a landing event. The tablets describe that they came from a specific place, a planet called Nibiru, the planet of crossing, a massive celestial body, lost in the darkness beyond Pluto, orbiting our sun in an ellipse so elongated that it takes 3,600 years to complete a single cycle. For us, 3,000 years is the entire history of a civilization. For them, it is only 1 year, one Sar. This explains their longevity. This explains why to primitive humans they seemed immortal. But why would they come? Why travel through the cold vacuum of space to an insignificant blue planet? The answer is not spiritual. It is economic. It is survival. 450 years ago, Nibiru's atmosphere was dying, a slow ecological catastrophe caused by ages of volcanic activity and natural deterioration. Space radiation was cooking their planet. They needed a shield. And their science pointed to a single solution: gold. Gold isn't just money. In advanced physics, gold is an irreplaceable metal. It's chemically inert. It's a perfect conductor. And most importantly, if you pulverize it into nanometric particles and release it into the atmosphere, it creates an almost perfect heat and radiation shield. They didn't come to conquer us. They came because they were desperate. They scanned the solar system and found Earth, a planet with abundant surface-level veins of gold, ready for extraction. The tablets describe the arrival, the first expedition group, 50 Anunnaki landing in the waters of the Persian Gulf, led by a being whose name would echo throughout human mythology, Enki, the Lord of the Earth, the chief engineer. They established their first base, Eridu, home away from home. Imagine the scene, not stone temples, but modular metal structures landing in the mud of ancient Mesopotamia. Artificial lights cutting through the darkness of prehistory, the hum of generators that the natives would interpret as the roar of divine beasts. For thousands of years they mined, but not here. The tablets are specific. Mesopotamian gold was scarce. The real source was in Abzu, the lower world, what we now know as southeastern Africa. Modern archaeologists have found gold mines in South Africa dating back to the Stone Age. Deep mines. Who was mining gold on an industrial scale 70,000 years before humanity invented the wheel? The Anunnaki brought with them a working class, the Igigi, lower-ranking astronauts. They were the ones who descended into the dark pits. They were the ones who operated the machines. They were the ones who suffered. For 40 SARs, almost 150 Seawurlars, Earth years, the Igigi worked, day and night, until their patience ran out. The ancient text, the Epic of Atrahasis, describes the exact moment of the mutiny. The Igigi burned their tools. They surrounded the house of Enlil, the commander of the mission on Earth, in the middle of the night. They shouted, "The burden is excessive. The work is deadly. We are not slaves." There was panic in the colony. Enlil, a strict military leader, wanted to execute the rebels. Anu, the king who watched from Nibiru, sympathized with the workers. The standoff threatened to abort the entire mission to save their planet. Gold was needed, but who would extract it? It was at this moment of political crisis that Enki looked at the local fauna of Earth. He saw a curious hominid, a Homo erectus. He looked at that primitive creature and had an idea that would change the fate of the universe. He said, "Let's create a Lulu, a mixed worker. Let's put the yoke of labor on him, Da." Here we enter the most disturbing part of the story, the moment when we ceased to be animals and became products. Enki worked with Ninmah, the chief medical officer. The tablets describe their laboratory called Bitshimti, the house where the wind of life is blown. If you replace the poetic Sumerian language with modern terminology, what you read is a genetic engineering manual. They didn't use clay and magic, they used eggs and sperm. Clay is the translation of the word tayet, which also means that which has life, DNA. The process was one of trial and error. The tablets horrifically described the failures, beings with defective internal organs, beings who couldn't control their hands, grotesque mutations that had to be destroyed until they succeeded. The Adamu, the first test human. They took genetic material from the terrestrial hominid to ensure adaptation to the planet and fused it with Anunnaki genetic material to confer intelligence, tool use, and obedience. We are hybrids. That is why we have 46 chromosomes, while our primate relatives have 48. 2 of our chromosomes were fused, artificially glued together. A mark of editing so clear that modern geneticists call it human chromosome 2, but cannot explain how it happened naturally. We were created to be sterile, like mules, disposable biological workers. We were supposed to mine, serve, and die. But Enki had other plans. Perhaps out of scientific pride, or perhaps out of unexpected compassion, Enki broke protocol. He altered the code again. He gave us the ability to procreate, to multiply. The Bible calls this the fall, the moment Adam and Eve ate from the fruit of knowledge. But in the Sumerian version, it wasn't an evil serpent. It was the Creator himself, Enki, giving his creation the key to biological freedom. This enraged Enlil. The administrator saw humanity as a virus. They were multiplying too fast. They were noisy. They were rebellious. And now they knew how to do more than just dig. The tension between the two brothers, Enki, the empathetic scientist, and Enlil, the authoritarian general, shaped our entire ancient history. What we call celestial battles were political disputes over what to do with the human race. The human population exploded. We began to learn. We began to look at our masters not only with fear, but with curiosity. Enlil decided that the experiment had failed. Humanity should be exterminated. The opportunity came with a natural astronomical event. The next passage of Nibiru would cause gravitational instability. The polar ice caps of Antarctica would slide into the ocean, causing a global tsunami. A flood. Enlil made all the Anunnaki swear secrecy. Let the humans die. Let the water cleanse the earth. We will depart in our ships and wait for the water to recede. But Enki could not let his creation die. He went to the home of a human named Ziusudra, the Sumerian Noah. Enki could not speak to him directly because of the oath, so he spoke to the wall of the hut, knowing that Ziusudra was listening on the other side. The instructions for the ark were not for a wooden zoo boat. The tablets describe a submersible. Seal it with bitumen, make it covered above and below. It was a hermetically sealed biological survival capsule, a technological seed to preserve the DNA of Earth. When the waters rose, sweeping away cities and mines, the Anunnaki watched from their ships in orbit. Ancient texts say that even the gods wept at the sight of the destruction. They realized they depended on us. Without humans, there would be no food, no labor, no luxury. When the waters receded and they saw that some humans had survived thanks to Enki, Enlil was furious, but eventually accepted reality. They needed us. After the flood, there was a change in strategy. The Anunnaki decided they could no longer manage everything directly. They needed intermediaries. That's when royalty descended from the heavens. They created hybrid bloodlines, priest-kings, pharaohs, individuals with more Anunnaki DNA than normal, charged with ruling the masses on behalf of the gods. They gave us civilization, but they gave it in packages. Sumeria appeared out of nowhere with mathematics, astronomy, laws, and writing. Egypt appeared out of nowhere with construction techniques that we cannot replicate today. The pyramids are not tombs. No mummy has ever been found in the Great Pyramid. They are machines, sacred geometry on an industrial scale. Power generators, navigation beacons for the spaceport in Sinai, we forgot, or we were made to forget. The Anunnaki eventually left or retreated into the shadows, but they left control systems, religions, monarchies, and most importantly, they left the promise of return. Today, we look at ancient ruins and see stones, but if you know where to look, you will see circular saw marks on the granite of Abu Rawash. You will see the one Uveirozorotan blocks in Baalbek that no crane can lift. You will see the impossible. So, we return to the initial question. Who are we? We are not the pinnacle of evolution. We are the survivors of a galactic corporate experiment. We carry within us an ancient conflict. We have the aggression of Earth's primates and the cold genius of the engineers of the stars. This duality is what makes us human. We are capable of the greatest love and the most terrible war. We are the children of Enki and the servants of Enlil. But here is the final secret that perhaps even they did not expect. The experiment worked too well. We woke up. We deciphered the genome. We are exploring Mars. We are creating our own artificial intelligence. We are becoming like them. And the question that remains for the next video is, where are they now? Did they leave forever? Or did they never leave? Maybe they are watching, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves again. Because according to their calendar, they only left yesterday morning. I'm Elias Gregorio, and this is the true history of humanity. If you want to know how they built the pyramids and where they hid the technological evidence, subscribe now. The rabbit hole is much deeper than you think. See you next Thursday.